What's up, guys? For today's
Whoa.
video, I'm going to go over.
How do I stream? How the hell do I share this live stream? Alright, now. How do I share this? Anyone know how to... Oh, wait. I know. Alright, here we go. Alright, there we go, there we go. What up, Ludwig? How's it going? Alright, I think I got everything figured out now. I can see both sides. Cool. Alright. First thing first, I'm just going to overview, look at SPY, where I'm looking at, all that good stuff. So SPY here, you know, kind of went over the FEGs in latest video, but some levels I'm watching that top level 397.25. I like it. You know, our big move really is up here over 400. We need to reclaim 400. But I like this big move up. You know, it's really over what 4015. These levels over here. So if we can get over that, I like it a lot. You know, our next would be up here. So I like that a lot, but that potential move's also there. But you know, this downside move, if we can get underneath that low, let's see, what is our low here? 393.64. We can get under that, fill this FEG. We got some decent downside space. Good Lord, I got a lot of lines here. But we got some decent downside space. First, obviously, need to take out that 394.29. I really like it underneath these lows here at 393.85, 394. I like that a lot for that potential downside move. Further, upside, do have the FEG play quick scalp over 398. I think it's definitely potential. But for the upside, you know, really I want to see us reclaim 400, which would be huge. If we look here a little further outdated, let's go to the daily. Daily actually doesn't look awful from a bullish perspective. Definitely could go either way, but what I like here is we do have that volume cluster, that volume node that we hit off almost perfectly. So I do like that there. Damn cat's running up a storm. All right, weekly. Let's check our weekly. Weekly, not as good. We have a lot of congestion in here, which is all right. But to me, it does look like we broke out here and almost perfectly retesting that level. Did get a bounce. So I do like that. The weekly, we do have some nice range up short term. But you know, it's big to see. On the downside, what we really need to hold, that 380 level. Obviously, underneath that, some pretty big levels, but I like it. Not really going to go with any crazy bias or anything going into the week. I like both ways we can play, and it's definitely setting up some cool opportunities. Let's look at Qs. Qs is, honestly, I like this setup better for a... For the indices, and the reason being we have these two massive VPAs here intraday, and we also have a very nice, you know, set of triggers that we can play here with some pretty cool ranges. I like that range up towards 297.5. We really need to get through 293. It's been big, and 296 has been, you know, 295 obviously pretty big psych level. 296 has been pretty big in the past. I like that a lot. And then on the downside, man, we can get under 290. We're cooking on down here, 286.87, and we can hit it even lower, with that big one being all the way down here around 281 and then 280. So I like the potential here with Qs. Let's look at this on the daily. All right, on the daily, you know, another similar, little bit of a doji here. Cool, I like that. Let's look at IWM. IWM, ooh, interesting here. IWM's definitely still within this little bit of a consolidation if we're going to go with some patternization here. You know, a little bit of a wedge down here. Let's check this hourly. All right, so interesting. Definitely a very big area here, needs to reclaim. Does have some potential, it looks like, either way. IWM certainly moves slower, but you know, that's just part of it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them whenever. I'm going to look at, I was breaking down some flow, let's see, yesterday, and came across a couple of weird things. First off, SQ is my favorite play heading in tomorrow. I'll go over that here in a second. Both way potential, I love it. But what I'm going to do, Mara is one that has some very interesting flow. Let's see. So this volume spike right here really piqued my interest. And if we look, it's all bid side calls, 20 calls, 110 days out, which is, you know, a massive move. Technically bearish here, but this is a lot of premium for Mara, especially for that outdated. So that's interesting to me. You know, it could be selling these calls that were bought a long time ago, but it's one that's definitely interesting. Short term, seeing a lot of hits here on these sixes, 6.5, 7s. Makes sense, but here come these, you know, those 20s again, which is weird to me. Just a lot of weird action. And then another one, of course, let me go back here. Tesla has some interesting flow as well. Flip on flow. What I should do is go over here. I'm just going to hit the live flow with this. Let's go Tesla. I hope it doesn't do anything weird. Hit my filters real quick. I don't care about. See, this is where it gets weird. I want Friday. I want the entire day Friday, not 1300 0 to 24, 22. All right, that's cool. So looking at Tesla, one sec. Let me throw on some filters. Premium. Let's look at 25 plus to start. Spot size 0 to 14 DTEs. Volume, I don't care. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Here we go. OTM only, exclude that. Hide them, expired. And I'm going to look at some single legs. All right. So looking here, nothing too. This is Tesla. I need to increase this to 50-ish. Interesting. Yeah, so these 195s. And then these 190 puts really stick out to me. Massive, you know, if we were to calculate all of this in here, I don't even know, that's, you know, that's somewhere over 1 million. But let's look at Tesla's chart now. Tesla, come on now. Tesla. So Tesla's one, you know, it's got a lot of wicks, so I prefer using hour. Even it's one that, you know, I'll use a 4-hour on. I'm not the biggest fan of a 4-hour chart ever, but you can see here we are consolidating off that. Need to reclaim 200 is huge, 199 as well. And then underneath these lows here, this low especially here at 187.61, we do have a potential pretty big move because we did move up so fast. You can see over here we do have these nice volume profile gaps on our intraday here. So I like that a lot. I like this for both way move. Bigger move really being over 202.85. I'd like 205 can send us up pretty quick to that 210 level. So it's another one with good potential either way. Those puts definitely stand out to me, just because, you know, that's a lot of size. Let's see what 190s they're taking for 3.3 at 5 right now. So not a cheap premium, decent size. In 190, $6 out of the money for a name like Tesla. I'd like to see that down about 180 because it can move pretty explosively. But the daily chart, again, consolidating on that volume node, very similar to Qs and SPY, which, you know, makes sense considering it's a big position in all of those. So I like that Tesla play a lot too. It's one that, you know, it's definitely more expensive. SQ though, this is the one I'm looking at for me. So we had earnings. I believe they were the 23rd. Don't quote me on this 100%, but we are consolidating in this wedge form here. And then this is what I really like. We have, it was beaten down the 16th and the 17th, beaten down along with the overall market. Then we rebound hard and we form this consolidation. If we look at that consolidation zone, it's right on top of this key zone here, which has been huge. Underneath that, we're looking down here towards 69, 69, 39, 70, which is cool as well. See if we can form some higher highs here, though. I like this really want to see it over that 78.3, which has been big here. But if we look at the 15, we also have decent zone up here towards 78.6. So to me, the smarter or maybe the less risky entry would be that 78.6, aiming for 80. And we really do have room up towards 81 pretty easy, in my opinion. And then the huge move there is if we can reclaim 83 and push up, testing some levels in here. And then our breakdown level, need to get underneath these levels in here, down towards 71.8, basically 72. Push down in towards our 70 level. And then really from there, this level still needs to be retested up here. And then we have a big consolidation zone all the way down here. 63 would be the max, longer term, looking out a little bit for that downside. Now let's look at some smaller names and some interesting setups. Just setups, I kind of like. AAL's one I've been on and liking a lot. It doesn't move as fast, but Boeing did have some bearish news on Friday. It has fallen out of its consolidation zone, so definitely interesting. But here with what's it, AAL, looks like 1541. Let me break this down, make sure that. All right, so we did have one close under 1535. We finished here about 1557. So that 1537, really, we're gonna move this down. 1537. It's been tested multiple times, so I'd like to see it underneath that before getting too confident there. And then let's look at some potential top side. So we definitely need, what do we here? 1567. What is our low here? Come on, give me a low. 1573. All right, so definitely interesting. 1566, 68. Yeah, so 67, 1567, 1565 is big. So over that high, I'm cool with there. It is pretty close to our ending level. So, we're 20 cents out. I might move this up here to these lows in here, 1577. What's this retest? That's a big one. Our high here, 15.8. We're gonna throw this at 15.8. Give us a little bit of room to run up and not try and call something early, get in too early. That's one big thing I like. But we do have a little bit of room here up towards 16, over 16, 16.2. Pretty easy move, which is nice on AAL. Very cheap premiums. I like it for a small account play. If we're looking here at the daily, flip over to this daily. Definitely interesting. Had a consolidation, then broke down, retested this previous support, turned it into resistance, and we haven't been able to get back over that low of our gap day. Then on the downside, this right here screams we need a retest, in my opinion. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very hard days, FVGs on every single day. Good Lord. I'm not a big fan of FVGs on these names like this because they're not as liquid. They're a little bit harder to trade. But if we're looking here, we do have an FVG there on the hourly. Another big one down here. And then our big zone all the way down here at about 12, which to me that's crazy. A ton of FVGs. Let's see. I love the downside play here, to be honest with you, just because I think it could move faster. So that'll be one I watch with Boeing. If we look here at Boeing, gap down below this previous support that is held super strong. If I just throw that level 203, it's held super strong here, right at that 203 to 203.75. So I like that a ton. We also retested, you know, it needs to reclaim 200. 275 has been one. I missed hitting the point I wanted. 275, another decent one. And then on the downside, we got that low. Let's see our low here, 197.36, which in my opinion is pretty close to where we finished, which is interesting. But if I do this little action here, we have a little bit here, 196.5 area, but the bigger one I really notice here, have a little bit down here, and then obviously a lot of support down in here. What's this, down towards 185? I like that. I'm gonna look at some flow here on BA, see what we got cooking. Yeah. All right, let's throw 20K on here. It's a little bit more expensive on the premiums. All right, so I don't see anything crazy at that 20K. Let me check it, 10K. Again, nothing too crazy. We got some ask side 190s, 185s. I don't see a ton on anything crazy out of the money though. Interesting. Let's flip over here. Go to this. I'm gonna go to intraday. Let's flip on this BA. What we got here? BA, let's see. Okay, so we do have a massive spike here. Interesting. Most frequent, these are expired, not going to look at those. So 195, that's about in the money now. Let's see, these 190s I like. 240s, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So $40 move in 100 days, almost $50 move in 100 days. Definitely interesting. These calls stand out. So this is, again, another one, both way potential. But I like playing, honestly, I love playing AAL with instead of BA because I like the spreads a lot more. It's also, you know, cheaper, so I can get more. I like that. BABA, another one. I don't like trading BABA personally just because it moves so damn much. BAC moves so slow for me. It is a good name, and I do think we could have some potential pop here, but a lot of congestion. It's a very slow mover. Disney's been one back under 100, could potentially move, but now honestly I like the upside a little bit more now that we've retested that 100 level. Do have a gap to fill below, but it looks like we need to get over this 101.10. Yeah, 101.10, potential move up here towards 102.5, decent move. Okay, premiums on Disney, and then the underside I'd like to see that 100 taken out again. Looks like 99 is pretty big as well, but really 99.5. What's our retest here? Yeah, 99.5. Like to see that taken out on the downside for a potential push down towards this 99 level, and then really the big one down in here. But we do have this gap from there to there on the downside. Not a big gap, but there is a gap. Let's check out our daily. All right, so daily, we took out that volume. This is why I love volume profile right here, ladies and gentlemen. We took out this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trading days once we closed below. Wait, let me calculate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once we close below. Super quick move, right? And Disney's not one that moves a crazy amount. If we're looking here, we'll do some calculations based off the days before that. We're going to exclude this. It's an earnings move. So high to low about $3, $2 and some change, $3. So, it's moving about $3, and we get a move from 105. Let's see our close here, 105 down to 98, which moved. That's a fast move for Disney. It's one that loves chopping consolidation zones. So I like that, and that's why I really like those volume profiles. Let's see, DKNG is another one. They had a nice earnings. Gap up, long upper wick, and fade down. That level is massive on that 21.45, 21.5 level is huge on DKNG. That was another earnings gap. Also had Super Bowl stuff thrown in there. So I like that. Let's check this hourly. Okay. The hourly, interesting for sure. So we have this zone here that has been big. Use that. Come on, use that wick. So we have that big zone here around 18. We did bounce off it, but I'd like to see this back over. Let's go 15, break this down a little bit further. All right, so I'd like to see it over 18.6 for that call side potential down here under 1797.18. But I like that retest there, about 18.6. Ooh. So that looks decent both ways to me as well. It's again one that moves super quick in those first 15 minutes. Like if we're looking at this is the first 15-minute move. The last, trading sessions, it's been huge move first 15, huge move at 11 actually, and then that first 15 big move. First 15 consolidation followed by a big move. So it's one that moves super quick within those first 15, 30 minutes. And doesn't always get the best follow through the rest of the day. If we look at this in using orb, it's a tricky one because it does kind of do its own thing. So if we look here, high, low, that orb, I'm going to remove this here for a second. It's certainly interesting in the way it works, but if it has that big move in the first 15 minutes, it tends to not flush as much as we'd like to see, as we can see here. Do you ever get involved in a play that didn't retest the first 15 minutes twice? Most of the time I try to set out of stuff like that, but on occasion I will if I like the setup a lot. And if I do, that would be something that I'm going to take smaller size and risk less on. But a big thing that I struggled with early on and still struggle with, to this day is patience. So that's a big reason why, I've been faked out of a lot of names. That's one reason why I hate trading BA is because I've been faked out of BA and NVIDIA are two that I've been faked out a ton. But yeah, I like using that retest. So explain this more. Let's go here to looking at, some names that are a little bit more liquid. Looking at SPY or names like this. Last week, granted, we did have a shorter week. We tend to have less movement on the shorter weeks. But looking at this, right, so absolutely massive move just in this one candle, which sets up our 15-minute orb range. Friday was a very hard day to trade, in my opinion, just because it was choppy. It was one, scalps worked okay. But other than that, it was, you kind of had to catch a consolidation zone and then scale at previous levels. See, in my opinion here, where would I have entered? So why I wait on that second? We got 1, 2, then we get this little flush down, second close. Oh, this would actually be our second close below here and a retest. Would I enter here? Yes, probably. Reason being 2 closes below, and then our next candle would have faked me out. Looking back at it, where would our optimal entry be? It would, of course, be this candle here at 905, get a little bit of a flush, but then right back to it. So those quick little scalps would really be what would happen. And in this case, I probably would have just been hit on my stop loss, because in this, unless I'm playing a 0 DTE here, which I don't play too often, unless I'm playing that 0 DTE here, it's not going to move too much. We can look at the premium chart potentially, but interesting. But kind of a point I want to bring in there about FVGs as well is we had this FVG that was created here on January 20th, and I mark these levels a lot now because they, price tends to pull to them, which is interesting, and I like to use them as my bigger, or what I'm really looking for there in support and resistance. And looking at this, that would be a great opportunity for our call entries, because we do have this consolidation here, and we notice all of these buyers stepping in here. If you're a VPA guy, this is one that sticks out. We have what some accumulation in here. We're trying to buy them up, and we can see this by the longer lower wicks. Friday's one where the 15-minute or a 10-minute, it helped with the trading. And as we can see here, these long lower wicks have some nice volume accumulation after potential. We tried to go back up and test levels, right? Accumulation, and then we get the break. And for that, I like to use the lows and the highs of orbs as targets, right? Because in this case, it does become that sell side, buy side liquidity shit. I don't know 100%. I think it's sell side. Anyways, so my first target, of course, be here. This candle would have thrown me off if I get in here early thinking we're going to drop through. But also, do I look for a puts entry here? Definitely one where it's like, shit, I know that there's been chop early in the day. So what am I going to do? Am I going to wait that chop out? Or am I going to potentially misplay? That's one where I would start overthinking it a lot. And it's interesting because, you know, stuff like that happens. But I'll prefer taking puts on a candle like this, just because, you know, it's the risk to reward's better than taking them down here. But in that case, so say we enter calls, we just nail this calls entry right in here. First candle, of course, going to be that orb low, which we've also retested. Then over that, going to make note of where we have retested in here at 395.4. Then over that orb high. So these will be my targets. Target 1, target 2, target 3. This move, if we catch it right, not going to be the biggest move. So I might just move my stop loss up to this key area in here, 394.38 on options. Can use the Webull premium chart is what I use, and just move it up accordingly. So hit that there. This becomes target 1, target 2, target 3. Obviously this candle here, great exit spot. Also potential put entry, massive upper wick on some decent volume, sending us down. But my first true scale would honestly probably be this candle here, because we do see that longer upper wick, and I'm just going to try and lock some profits in. We can't go broke if we're locking profits in. We can go broke if we don't take profits. So that'll be my first one. I wouldn't honestly be too scared after that. Here, I wouldn't be scared simply because we have turned this into support, and I would move my stop loss to right here, back at our orb low, because it's a key level. I would have loved to see a retest here and then push up. Great entry in my opinion there. But then that candle here, that tells me to get the hell out of my calls if I'm in them calls. Yeah, but you say interested using your support as an entry for calls. I love doing that. Honestly, it's one of my favorite ways to play, or to play anything, is really, those retest of the levels and then the inverse of what I'm trying to enter, if that makes sense. So like a put trigger, using that for calls, and then a call trigger, using that for puts. That increases our risk to reward, but the thing there, I think it is important to note, and why I like using candles, is they can help us tell what everyone else in the market is thinking, what those buyers and sellers are thinking. I want to look for certain setups towards the call to enter puts, and then similar setups, but the inverse, if that makes sense, for put trigger looking for calls. So for put triggers, long upper wicks, love that. And then also tweezer top formations, which here we do have a tweezer top, but it's a super big move, so I'd love a retest there. In this case, this is our retest candle of prior action because it has not been retested. Long upper wick, decent volume. If you're a big volume guy, I tend to overlook it. Nice push down, great entry. On the downside, what I'm looking for, longer lower wicks, and then tweezer bottom formations. This isn't, I wouldn't really say this is a tweezer bottom, but we do have a bit of a hammer. This is, stereotypical hammer. I love hammer candles. Let's look at the 10-minute, see if we can hit it with that. Yeah, so if we're looking here, this is, a great setup for a hammer candle. If you guys like trend lines, we can throw this on. Actually, I think that would be more of our break, right? From whatever. But showing long lower wick shows me that the buyers are willing to step in there and push that price up. You want to buy it here if you're looking for calls, right? Because that risk to reward is great. Set the stop loss for the low of the day or the low of that wick, and again can use Webull charts. Let me bring up Webull and try and show what I'm talking about using premium charts. Got to load here successfully. All right, cool. So if we look at SPY here, SPY for Friday, let's hit it with these calls here. So let's say we're looking at we'll just go 400s, make it easy. So early in the day, let me cross check, make sure I'm doing the right times. That was at 9:50 Central Time. This is Central Time. Whoa, come back. All right, let me throw this up here. But yeah, if you want Webull, I can always throw something down in the description. I love using this for options trading. It's been very helpful. So if we look there, whoa, nah, I don't want to do that. 9:50, good Lord, this is early. All right, so we are at, this one is in Eastern time, which throws me off. Would be 10:50. Where's our 10:50 candle? So 10:50 is actually here. But this is another thing that I find weird with TrendSpider is, so Webull here, this is a 9:35 candle. On TrendSpider, this would be the 9:30. So it's 5 minutes back. So here is our candle actually. And as we can see here, we've had this support at 0.43. We wick off it. So where would I set my stop loss? I'd set it for the low of this candle here at 0.42. If you like it better, you know, you can set it at 0.41 or 0.40, just because it is, you know, a little bit below, potentially help us get wicked out. But using this, where am I looking for things? So we have that level here. It's been tested. 0.71 would be a great scaling, look to scale. And then definitely going to make note of this level that we've tested. I'd actually move this up a little, 0.58. So that would be my first potential scaling. If I'm entering at that, let's say we get in there about 0.46 on that close, or the close of this candle, 0.45. Okay, 0.45 to 0.58. What do we have there? About a 50% move. I'm perfectly cool with that, right? And then my second target would again be that 0.7, 0.43 to 0.7. Well, let me do some calculations here, about 60 something percent. So I like that, and that is not 50%, 0.58 to 0.45 to 0.58. It's like, you know, 20, 30 something in there. All right, cool. So then over that, this is one where, are we going to top wick this? It's kind of hard based off just the options chain here, because really my goal would be up here at 1, right? But that's where a stop loss, once we get over here and over that 0.58, I've scaled. I'm going to set a stop right on these lows here, about 0.5, and then I can move it up once we get over that. I'll move it up to the low 0.54, and then once we get over, and I see this close here, which would go with our normal chart as well, remove that, move my stop to 0.58, and keep going. Would definitely watch that 0.66 level, important. I hit a scale there at 0.71, 0.7, got that set, and then I'm going to move my stop to this low here, which inevitably that's where I would get stopped on that next candle, or I see that and I'm like, shit, got to get out. It closes here at 0.68. I take them at 0.68 or 0.7, whatever I see. I don't know the exact candle of what happened, but yeah, that's how I kind of scale with stuff like that as well. And then we also, you know, you can notice later in the day how well these levels are respected. So it's very similar to just, you know, your normal low chart, which is awesome. All right, back to some interesting tickers. Do you utilize Webull? Yeah, man, I love Webull. So this is my setup. I made a short video on it, but I can talk about this a little. So for options, I love it. And the big thing that I've liked a ton is, one, the charts. I can chart out my premiums, support and resistance using all this, all that good stuff. But also this ladder over here. I can buy at limits. I can put a limit in. I can sell a stop, but also sell a limit, so I can have those take profit orders or take stop orders, which have been very helpful because I used to just trade off my phone. And yeah, Rodolfo, that is a big reason why I started on TOS. I originally started investing stuff, so I wasn't worried about fees. But when I got into options, TOS fees, I didn't think much of it until they racked up. And then when I had a really bad couple days, I was like, shit, these fees hurt even more. So I got the hell off of that. Bordeaux, how do you pull up the option chart on Webull? Yeah, so for this, you just drop in. If you go up here to widgets, add widget, hit the chart, you can do, the chart will come in, and then you'll need to go to widget, and then this options one will give you this screen here. And then once you're in there and you have a watch list over on the side, you can click on this, you can click on anything you're watching, right? And it will bring up a list of options. So let's say I'm looking at some QQQs, right? Close that. It'll bring up this entire option chain. And then once I go in there and click on, let's say I'm looking at some 295 calls, that will bring up the option premium chart. So it's pretty cool. Does Webull Mobile have all this stuff? Webull Mobile, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the premium chart. I know they have stop loss order. They do have a premium chart on Webull. You just have to click the quote section, and that'll bring it up. But yeah, it's I traded off my phone for 2.5 years, so it's definitely one that you can do. But it's interesting. Yeah, Otis, that is a good point. But the thing I didn't want to have to deal with them. I hate talking to people in that in like the customer service space, because they're just a pain in the ass to deal with. Do I mainly trade supply and demand setups? Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because most of the time I'm a big fan of like SPY and Qs, and then 1 to 2 other setups that I really like. How I find setups and how I like setups is based off volume profiles, also coupled with flow. And then yeah, I do use supply and demand, support and resistance. But would it be my staple? I wouldn't exactly say that. My staple or my go-to strategy is the 15-minute orb. So if we're looking here at SQ, it's just the high and the low of the first 15-minute candle to set my triggers. High will be my call, low will be my put, and I use that as the support and resistance. Yeah, so used to TOS. Yeah, certainly interesting. It's one that takes some time to get used to any of them, but I like Webull personally. I've been using Moomoo. I have a partnership with Moomoo now, but I'm trying to understand it more. It's definitely taking some time. But to go back to my strategy, really, high and low first 15. In this case, first 3 5-minute candles, and then I'm looking for 2 closes below. And the reason I do that is, 1, I'd be faked out here, get massively overtaken here, and I love the confirmation. I love those retests. So what I'm looking for in terms of an entry here, I'd look for a calls entry once we retest that orb low. In this case, boom, we get our retest here. Would I enter here? Yeah, probably. Looking back at it, where's our optimal entry? Obviously here, you can see that in retrospect. We get multiple retests, closing back above that orb low. Then obviously we get that push throughout the day up towards that orb high. But Why I like orb a lot is because, one, gaps are super common nowadays. If we look at this, let's just look at the 15 and kind of our gap days. So 1 gap day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Small gap down here, we had news. I won't count that. So 6, 6 in the last, since the 14th. It's a lot of gap days. And a lot of things I noticed when I had preset triggers. That's the word I'm looking for. When I had preset triggers, it would gap above or below, and then my triggers are just out of whack, and I'm kind of confused or overthinking when I get into the play or looking to get into the play at where the hell am I going to take this entry. With the orb, I don't have to pre-do it. I use that first 15 minute, and then I like to use support and resistance based off the hourlies, hourly 15 minute here and there, as well as a combination of FVGs just to know where my bigger term target is and where price can move fast. But yeah, that's how I utilize. I'm a big fan of keeping my strategy and what I do as simple as possible because it helps me repeat. One thing, I talked about FVGs. I added those in here pretty recently. But other than that, I like to keep it super simple because I do tend to overthink things a lot. And that hurt me a ton when I first started trading. What are your thoughts on Bookmap? Yeah, I've seen Bookmap a lot. It's interesting because I don't fully understand it. And to me, I like to see and utilize other psychology. That's why I like candles, right? But Bookmap is one that definitely takes a lot more thinking, which I'm not the greatest at. Like, I tend to overthink things a lot, but I know a lot of people who actually love it. It's one, again, that I think, takes some getting used to, but it certainly can help because it helps you visualize order blocks, all that good stuff. I think the biggest issue I would have personally with it would just be getting used to it and seeing all that stuff on my chart. Like this chart right here for me has a ton of levels, a ton of lines. I like to keep stuff as simple as possible because of that overthinking aspect. But some people like EMAs, like all that stuff. I do like EMAs from time to time, but where I have a problem personally is using the EMAs for entry instead of using them to aid in my entry, if that makes sense. And how I use EMAs is also probably a little bit different than most people. I like to throw in extended time with EMAs, but how I use them is I really use them for separation to understand where the big move potential is. So, when the EMAs have this separation here in between them, they tend to move faster, as we can see here. And then once they start to move, the 9 EMA is my slower. Yeah, EMA retest, I have seen that for sure. The 9 EMA is this red line 20 being the over. Yeah, Rodolfo, that is how I like to utilize them as well. But my big thing on how I utilize EMAs would be looking for separation to determine where price can move faster. So when we have separation between our EMAs, that shows me that price can move faster. And then when the EMAs are tighter, price tends to chop more. But the hard part about that is on gap days like this, obviously we have some separation here, so it is going to move faster. But then we actually get a very nice move, but these EMAs don't have very much separation. So it's interesting. But then on trend days, obviously they help a ton. Like in this scenario, we get across, right? And then our EMAs start to get separation. They start to create this distance in between themselves. And that's where the big moves are. So it helps a lot on those gap or on trend days and being able to spot those trend days. As well as can be a very good guide to getting out of a trade. In the case of, the case of puts, looking for, to fully get out of trades when we get a bullish cross, which would be our lower time frame, or the 9 EMA in this case over the 20. And then the flip side, getting out of calls. Let's go over here. Getting out of calls when there's a flip to the 9 or the shorter underneath the longer or 28 EMA in this case. So it's definitely interesting. My big thing is I don't believe in one set way to trade. As long as it's helping you, as long as you're consistent and you can make money with it, go for it, right? The most important part is being a system that works for each person. We're all going to have different personalities for sure. And my strategy goes a lot with my personality, which is, making sure I hit home that patience aspect and then keeping it as simple as possible. Mainly trade weeklies or 0DT. I'm a big weeklies fan. 0DTs, I'll scalp them on occasion, but you can get chopped out a lot, and that's why I don't trade them as much. They can be super fast moving. And then the chops, I'd rather stay in a play a little bit longer, buy myself some time, and let them work with it. That's just a personal thing, though. I know some people love trading 0DTs, which good for them. As long as, whatever it may be, I'd say for like a beginner trader, I definitely would focus on weeklies opposed to 0DTE, because 0DTs, they move super duper fast, right? If you don't have your stop loss hit or put in right away, you can lose 50, 75, 80% of an account in, seconds. It's pretty wild. I was going to look at something. Oh, yeah. I'm going to look at some other interesting plays. Let me turn off these EMAs. Other ones, Amazon definitely interesting down here underneath that 92.4, 91.52, and then we actually have a lot of room. Can you go over theta, delta, and all those option decay numbers? Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I can do that for sure. So theta is the one biggest to me, because we have that theta decay aspect. So the closer it is to 1, the faster they decay. If you're a swing trader, I think that's more important than it is with day trading. But for swing trading and theta, delta, all your Greeks, it's something that the swing traders or longer term holders definitely account for. To me, honestly, yeah, I look at theta here and there, just to kind of give what could happen, but I don't focus on those Greeks because of inevitably I'm trying to get in and out of a trade, usually within an hour. Sometimes quicker, sometimes longer. But if I'm not trading 0DTs and I'm trading an indice, which is my favorite to trade, which has high liquidity, one, I'm not worried about that liquidity going in. And two, the theta is lower on, let me pull this back up. This is the interesting part. I don't know. It won't let me scroll over on this. Scroll. All right. Anyways, the theta numbers are usually lower on Qs, SPY, those indices. So that's the reason why I'm a big fan of trading indices as well. Aside from liquidity, is I don't have to think as much about the contracts I'm selecting, if I'm going to be 100% honest. But it happens. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest resource for what I would call upper level thinking on things like theta decay, advanced strategies, all that good stuff. Scaling out on position size. How do you decide if you load up on a player just by 1 or 2? Yeah, for sure. So first thing first, scaling into a position in sizing. So if we look here, right, scaling into position and sizing, the plays that I'm the most confident in are the plays that I'm going to take the greatest size on, right? And those plays most of the time are going to be either a retest of an orb level or playing the inverse on a retest, if that makes sense. So I'm more confident in playing plays and scaling in higher, taking bigger size on the plays where we have a retest. And I also see, in this case, buyers buying up, right? So in this first case, if I buy here off this first 5 minute, this would be my first scale. But I'm looking to build a position. And the hard part is I don't always get a position if we get a quick hitter that moves up. So bam, would look to scale in here again, to be honest with you. And then obviously here if I don't get stopped out, which is the hard part there. And then scaling out, I like to scale out in thirds. First third, I'm aiming for usually 2-to-1. So if I'm setting a stop loss based off the premiums chart at say 10%, then I'm going to look for that 20%. I like to always take my stop loss up to 0 once I've got 20% in the money. So then I can't, or 20%, I've returned 20% on premium, 20% gain, right? Then I can't lose money. That's the big thing there, I think, personally, is I don't need to hit all the home runs, but if I manage my losses and I don't let a green trade turn red, that helps me a ton. And then in terms of 1 or 2, the days till expiration also plays a factor in that for me. So if I'm playing 0 DTEs, most of the time I'm going to take smaller size, 1, 2, whatever it may be. I'm going to take smaller size on those. As opposed to if it's a little bit further outdated where I can take and I have more time on my side, then I'll build position sizes there, if that makes sense. But my favorite way to trade really are those really quick retest and pops. I love that a lot. So a lot of the times, honestly, I don't get full or as much position size as I want in a play, which makes it hard for sure, but I do get those super quick moves. And then I'm bouncing around like crazy on answering this question. I'm sorry for that. But for scaling as well, I always, after that 20%, I'm looking for a prior level. A prior level in this case, obviously, that orb low would be my first. Whoops, that's not where I want it. So that orb low, and then I'm looking for this level that's tested in here earlier. And then I'm looking for the orb high, in this case not fast moving. Now, if we're over or under, and I'm playing, say, puts here, and I'm looking for levels, say I take this, well, I'm looking back down. My risk to reward is not great here, right? I'm looking here. For calls, or we'll look at puts here. If I look at this and I'm taking the first 15, high, low, I'm taking puts underneath, calls above, right? This is another reason why I like to wait and use, what I know about candles to help me in making a decision whether to enter. In this case, we have a hanging man candle, tweezer top, and obviously falls down. But in this case, would I look to enter calls here? Yeah, probably. Be completely honest with you. And a reason being, we have a gap up showing some buyer momentum. Overall momentum is down on the day, on the daily chart. But we have these long lower wicks. In this case, this candle here would probably have gotten me. That's why I like to use stop losses. But in terms of where my targets are after, if we have entered stuff like this, so on that day, I'd use the 15 and the hourly to set. So if we look here, that is this day, right? Use just the 15 and the hourly to set levels that are key. So obviously the high of the day and the low of the day are pretty key here. That's not even the low of the day. There's the low of the day. But also levels that I can zoom out and look over. So in this case, what are levels that are important to me? Ones that get hit multiple times. So this high in here is retested again. So I'm just going to throw that down. I can't even see where that hit. 399.5. I like to round up a lot as well, so that's a key level to me. And then I already have that level marked down there. And then intraday levels, I'll make note of. Usually the longer outdated, so the hourlies I look at and use as more importance. But some big levels, good God, I got a lot of levels in here. So 396, and then this level in here's been big. So that'll be a level, I take note of. Now I'm going to go back over to the 5, and these are levels I'm looking to scale out of. Or looking, this is a lot of levels. I do not like it at all. So if I enter here on this close below, which in this case, would I have entered? Probably not, because I love retest. But where am I looking to exit, right? So get a close below, make note. I don't know where that 400.13 came for, to be honest with you. But I'm looking for that 399.5. And then the low of the day from yesterday, which I can move this up as well, because we do have this support zone down in here. It's more support as this, tested bounce, all that good stuff. So those would be my targets if I'm entering puts. Got to watch that first one at 400, big level, then 399.5, and then down here at 397, the prior day, low of the day. In terms of calls, oh brother, we got to look at something we can. All right, something that broke. So we get this here, first 15 low, first 15 high, low. Where am I taking this? Second close above, boom, boom. Nice little retest. Got to go to this 15, get me some intraday. I'm going to go to the hourly. Yeah, this video will be, it'll be posted and recorded. It's recorded, so it'll be posted live. Oh God, I don't recall what day I was looking at now. I believe it's here. So for key levels, right? A lot of fucking levels, if I'm gonna be honest. But the huge levels that I noticed here. So this is big. Obviously gets retested. It's where we stop, all that good stuff. But up here is a very key level at that 413. And then where are we bouncing off of? So we're bouncing off of this low here. We bounced once. Turned to resistance, bounced. Okay. I wouldn't say that's really, it's definitely a level, but I think this level here, I would have made more note of from the prior day. So right in here, ding, ding, right in here. And then where we bounced later in the day, that 412.5. If I go to the 5, good God. See, those levels are driving me crazy, having so much on a thing. That's why I like to keep it as simple as possible. All right. Bada bing, bada boom. Where am I looking? All right. So I'm looking up 412, 413, 413.7 as potential big levels. If we notice here, this has also been a huge level on the intraday. So if I just draw it over, make note of that, inevitably we end up hitting. So if I'm entering calls here, would this scare the hell out of me? Yes. That's why I have a stop loss. Let that stop loss work. And I also have the upside. Let that work. All right. So first target. See this upper wick here, take this at that target, scaled out, and then bada bing, bada boom. This becomes a high. If I just mark this, I'll use this. I mark this as the highs of that trading day. Bing, bing. Ah, shit. All right, so these two highs then become obviously that, and I'll sell or fully exit a position here just on my runners. My third of my position become runners, and those are ones that I'm okay with taking 20% if I get stopped out, but I don't want to move the absolutely huge move. In most cases, it's a very, very small percentage, or contracts. Maybe, say if I'm entering into 20, maybe it's 2 to 4 contracts. Nothing crazy, but it gives me potential for if we do get a huge move, right? And then once we get over these levels, my target's already set from that hourly. Awesome, cool. That's how I scale. Which scaling is definitely something that takes a lot of time. That's why I like playing those further outdated as well. Another question. What are you mainly looking? Volume profile. Oh, volume profile. All right. So let's look at SQ here. I'm a big fan of volume profile. Actually, let's look at QQQ. I don't know why this won't let me scroll, but okay. So what I'm looking at for volume profile, this is hourly volume profile. What I'm looking for is high volume node, and then I'm looking for these small volume nodes, which means that price can move faster once we use this as a quote unquote launch pad up towards this. Volume profile can also help with identifying the super key levels. The ones that stick out more are going to have higher volume, therefore probably going to serve as more key support and resistance. So in this case, we have that volume node there, 303.8, 304.69. I'm going to make note of that. Awesome. On the downside, once we get under that 290 level, we have a little resistance here, but price can move faster in between big volume node to another volume node that sticks out. In this case, this is all we see, right? Price can move faster here and here than it can in this node and this node. I also know that these levels are going to play more importance based off that support and resistance stuff. And why I like using the intraday, mainly the hour VPAs, is because on tickers such as QQQ SPY, like we don't get as much information here as I do intraday because there are so many shares traded each day. Now for a smaller name or names such as, let's just go here, as AAL, it's a little bit easier to see this because there's not as much liquidity. There's not as many shares traded every single day. So I know where price can move faster. And if I look at this hourly, I still can see where, good Lord, I have a ton of levels, where price can move faster based off of the last, in this case, oh gosh, let me do some calculations. I believe it's the last 20 trading days. So it's relevant time info to where I'm trading. I don't really necessarily care about what has happened in 1800 BC or May 11th of 2021. I care what's relevant in the recent term. Where I do care in the longer term is where we have gapped up into levels or gapped below levels. Then I can use, in this case, obviously big level up here, 1825. Okay, I can make note of that once we've gapped above these levels, because in terms of short-term levels, I don't have much here once we gap up, but I have a ton of levels created on this daily here. If we were to gap below or above, then I like to make note of stuff like that. So in this case, below this 11.9, say we gap below this 11.9 or we're below this 11.9, I don't have much to reference for calls, puts, support, resistance. I can make note of this daily here that this has been a big level here, about 10.7, so we're retested and ultimately pushed up. So that's why I like using shorter term, because I am a day trader. That's almost exclusively what I do. I've lost a ton trying to trade overnight, trying to hold overnight, trying to swing trade. So I just trade almost exclusively day trades. And that's also why I like to use intraday volume profile. That's what these nodes here on the sides. If you guys use, TrendSpider, it is volume profile. I have a manual anchor. You can anchor it to swing low, swing high, whatever it may be. I like to use the manual. It's just kind of how I've always done it. If you use TradingView, also sleep better. Good point, Otis. If you use TradingView, I believe it's VPVR, volume profile visible range, is the one I used to use there. And it's a similar setup as well. But yeah, I like to use that as well. It helps me when looking for plays and breaking down plays as well. Because like in this case, let's say I have this turned off, right? And I'm just looking at differentiating between, let's say, AAL, BAC, and let's see another play. What's another play similar to that? Actually, a better example I'd say would be like SQ and PayPal are two that tend to run together. So if I don't see this, what am I looking at here on PayPal? Looks like a Head and Shoulders. But anyways, and a gap below. So where do I know when price can move fast, right? Where can I differentiate this play between this and SQ? So if I don't have this, I have no knowledge of where price potentially can move fast. What I do know is that we have key level here, another one at this here, and then another one up here. What do I know on the downside? I know that we have a move here And I know that we're looking to test back down in these levels here, there, and in here. So that's what I know. But other than that, how do I know if this play could potentially move fast? How do I know where I could catch the biggest moves? Well, the answer to that and how I differentiate would be volume profitizzle. So in this case, this is why I like manual as well. I can also set it to, in this case, where if it was anchored to the low, it'd be a little bit different. But I can set this for trying to be able to see the bottom as well. So if I fucking let me grab it. All right, this is gonna piss me off. All right, there we go. So say I want to set it here. Now I can see that we also have nodes here, and it's obviously going to change the top side as well, but I can see where this volume is down here as well. Underneath that 73, not much, right? Okay, on the top side, do I have as much top side room? In this case, no, I would not say so. So this would be a decent play I would look for the upside. But how do I differentiate that between SQ, which SQ is one of my favorites, right? If I'm looking at SQ, this is my favorite play for tomorrow. Why? Because we have, for a day trading perspective, we have a nice range up here towards 80, and then longer term, we can look for that up higher as well. But on the downside, we have pockets underneath levels, right? Underneath 76, we're going to retest 74, 75. We're going to retest 75, right? So I can get that little bit of a scalp there if I want to play that downside. But the bigger move I know is from that 74, 75 down here towards the top of this here, about 73. Okay, cool. This play sticks out more because we have that, and then underneath this, a ton of downside room. I'll use Qs and SPY as well. Why I prefer to Q, I like the setup for QQQ tomorrow. This should be on January 9th now. All right. Why I like the setup for Qs tomorrow as opposed to SPY. Good God, that's a lot of levels. All right, I'm gonna clear all this. That's too much. So why I prefer Qs tomorrow, right? So where are our biggest move potentials here? Intraday levels. Biggest move looks like downside on SPY there, and then a little bit here. But look at all this upside. Look at all this volume we have in here, right? There's a ton of shares traded in here. There's a lot of chop that'll more than likely occur in this region where we have those higher volume nodes. Here, price tends to move faster. Now, if I look at Qs pretty simple, right? It's not as high or not as much range needed to get into this potentially big moving range, although Qs obviously does move with SPY as they are indices, so it's interesting for sure. Then the downside, also, if we're breaking that low of the day, which is a liquidity issue, if we're breaking that low of the day from Friday, we can push down into this level where price can move faster. So I prefer Qs tomorrow and SQ tomorrow as opposed to SPY, as opposed to PayPal, because they have those volume nodes or those volume profile gaps that show me where price can move faster, and they're closer to the closing price from Friday. So say if we gap in tomorrow, we gap down tomorrow under 290 and we don't retest 290, we're down here towards this 286.87 level, 287 level. The downside, I know we can move faster underneath that level, but I also know if we're say we're bouncing off 286.7, I know that this, let me delete this for a second. I know that we're going to have more congestion up in here. So, whoa, when I see that pre-market gap, I'm going to go over and throw some levels down. Let's say this level here, bada bing, bada boom, 289.6. I know that level is going to be more important inside these ranges. So this level here is going to be more important than that level that I just marked, if that makes sense. Can you explain how you overcome your bias as a trader? Yeah, bias is huge. It's definitely one I've struggled with, and it was a big reason why I blew up an account. So bias, how I overcome it. The first thing I'd say on a day-to-day basis, my starting place for bias is trying to make things as simple as possible, right? But also looking for up and a downside on plays because it helps me to just try and play that price action as opposed to get, so let's say in this case, I'm already thinking the downside on Q. So I only mark downside levels. And then tomorrow we bounce up and we're testing levels up here. Have I already set myself up to fail because I'm only targeting one level or I'm only targeting one side? Well, in that case, I like to do both sides because it helps me visualize both sides of a trade. Where can I see movement on the downside? Where can I see movement on the upside? And then the second thing, when I'm putting tickers on my watch list, usually 2 to 3, I like the plays that have both downside and upside potential. Now, there are plays where a downside looks better than an upside, and those ones I might make note of or, reference here and there. But the plays that have both the downside and the upside in the short term for that next trading day are the ones I like to capitalize on because of, one, that bias. It doesn't make me a one-trick pony only trying to see one side, right? Instead, I've already visualized, visualization is something that's been used. I played collegiate baseball, so a big thing for us was meditation and visualization. I was a pitcher, so visualization actually, I thought it was the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life before I started doing it and realized how much more success I had if I visualized the night before, or the day before, or the inning before I was coming in, or the, in warm-ups when I was getting ready to start. It was crazy. What market sentiment? Market sentiment. In terms of market sentiment, are you talking about what other people are saying in terms of Twitter, CNBC News, whatever it may be, or are you talking about like trends? Oh, within trends. Okay, so yeah. I like trends. I like to use an overview for sure. I like to, in terms of trends, I like to know on the daily. This is a big reason why, or the really only reason I use the daily is to understand where we are within a trend. So in this case, on the daily here, are we in a downtrend still? Yes, technically on the longer term frame. Now, if we look shorter term, talking here from January 5th to today, are we in an uptrend? I would say yes. Now, the last whatever trading session this is, February, the month of February, are we in a consolidation or a downtrend? Yes. So I like just having a general picture of what the bigger overall trend is, the midterm, or, in this case we have a breakout. But I like using trend lines some intraday. The hard part is they work better when there is a trend day. Do we always know when there's going to be a trend day? No, not necessarily. So definitely interesting. Like if we see here, we have two very similar days. We have a gap up above prior day high, prior day resistance, and then we have a gap below here on this day, right? Let me get this so I can remove this. All right, so what is the difference? How am I going to be able to know when or what is going to happen, right? And how can I use trend lines to differentiate? Well, it's hard, right? Because we have two very similar scenarios. The only difference I would say in scenario here is this is a Friday, which has 0 DTs on a shortened week. So the volume tends to be lower on shortened weeks. And my trend lines, if I'm using trend lines, right, from this high to here, does this really do much for me? Well, no, not really, because trend lines are all based off of psychology, as is the market. The market's based off one, psychology, and two, algorithms, market makers. But those market makers are trying to get a hold of your psychology using those algorithms to grab liquidity and then fake people out so they can make the most amount of money, all that good stuff. So psychology is a big reason, I'm a very, very big believer in psychology. But back to my trend lines thing before I got on the rant. So this day here, this isn't, patterns, yeah, can they work? For sure. But if we have a trend line here on this intraday as opposed to a trend line here, which one would you say equates to a greater, sense of a move, right? Another thing here, if we use these lows in this wedge forming here, do we get faked out in this case? Because we are these lows and maybe we're trying to play this entry and then boom through, where we do get a retest and the downside is a great entry here. So it's all based off perspective on trend lines. They can definitely be helpful for the visualization aspect, but they're tricky. That's why I like using support and resistance more and just simplifying my chart with lines and stuff like that. Can they be effective? Absolutely. But some days, right, these trend lines are going to work better than other days. Oh man, I'm about to sneeze. All right. So yeah, so if we look at this, which day do we obviously get a bigger move? Obviously here, when a trend line breaks, we set up that trend line throughout the day. Do I use, Frank, I'm a big fan of option flow. I do not use dark pool or order flow in my analysis, but how I use stuff like this is mainly in preparation when looking for plays. Intraday, I'll look at it here and there, but it's one that, like, if I have it off to the side, it can help me find potential plays that are moving or could move within that day if I don't already have something, if that makes sense. That was a very terrible description. So how I use flow, right? I like to use here on Hot Chains. First thing I did, if you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a couple of watch lists, right? Liquidity is all my top names that I've traded before that are based off of here. I use Unusual Whales, all based off the top 75 tickers on this Hot Chains and tickers. Now, this under one is my cheaper or smaller account watch list. So I've created this, I've broken down every ticker out there that does have options, and I've ensured that there's some liquidity. So if I'm looking for smaller account plays, I'm looking in this under one. I know what names I have, so I can scan through. So let's say here, scan through these names. Looking at AAL, do I have any cool setups? Do I like the setup? Yes, we've been over this one. AFRM, do I like this one? Interesting. Top side, I like the potential here. Downside, I like it if we can get under 12. Okay, I can start breaking these down. I can start seeing potential stuff, but how do I differentiate those? One, talked about volume profile earlier. Two is my flow. This is why I love flow. So in this case, what am I looking for flow? Let's look at one of those plays. Let's just look at AAL. Does anything stand out here on AAL? So what I'm going to do, I like using this Hottest Chains ticker here. And I'm looking for high volume contracts that are about to expire. And they're OTM. I like to see the more OTM, which is an interesting one because it's case sensitive. It's ticker by ticker sensitive because one ticker can move X amount and the other can move, $1. One can move $5. So one that, let's say a name like Tesla. I don't know why I said that so weird, but Tesla, one that is $5 out of the money is going to be different than AAL here. So for AAL, it's one that doesn't move as much. So I'll take into account the ATR or the daily true range, average true range of that ticker. So in this case, what is our highest option volume? In this case, 317. So 19 days out. I'm a day trader, so I like to look more towards 7 to 14 days out. This is okay, but these are only, $1 out of the money, both sides. Let me think. We finished, what's our closing price? 1 minute here. 15.56. So downside, those look great. They're $1 out of the money, right? These calls are already in the money. Then the 54.17s. So this doesn't stick out to me as much as if this 16.5 call were all the way up here at the top. That would stick out to me because one, it expires in 5 days. Two, it is $1 out of the money in a downtrend. I like that. And then on the downside, let's say that this 14 put was 433. That would stick out to me a ton. So let's look at one that stick out to me. Oh boy, I don't know any of these off. Oh, Beyond's actually one. I don't trade. I've never traded. I've never traded beyond in my life, but what sticks out to me? One, these have already expired, so I'm going to discount those. What did we finish at? We finished at here. Oh, God. It's about 19. All right. So what sticks out? One, these 3-3-25 calls are our second highest volume of any traded share that, or any traded contract that has not expired. So that sticks out to me, right? A ton. Second, do I have anything else? Downside, not as much. So this is one that I would look for the upside. 15 put, yeah, 19 days out. Doesn't stick as much as that 15 or 25 call for 3. What was I just looking at? 25? I swear it was, yeah. Am I drunk? Okay, here it is. 25 for 3-3. So then, once I do that and I see that, I can go over here to Beyond and I can go to this live flow. Let's stick in Beyond. Beyond is one that has seemingly cheaper premiums. So I'm just going to put in a 10K. We'll start with 10K. Do I want to spot whatever? 0 to 14 DTE. I like to do that because, again, I'm looking to day trade, have these same filters. So what am I looking for here? What are these massive moves? Well, one, we have a ton of volume and a ton of hits on these calls. These 22.5 calls taken at the ass stand out to me more than bids on calls because these bids could be one, selling, or two, just taking at the bid. The ask shows me that there's more certainty. There's more, I want to get in this play as fast as possible. So these 25s, while they stuck out, and there's something I was watching earlier, right? Do they stick out to me as much now on these 3-3s? Not as much. If they were taken at the ask and massive premiums taken on those 25s, that would stick out to me a ton. Now this one here, on a 12-day Beyond, 12 days till expiration, taken at 22.3. We ended up closing the day, here at 19. So that's interesting to me. This, to me, it's like, okay, someone might know what the hell they are looking for. It was also taken, I need to find it again. It was taken at the ask while in a downtrend for the day. 30K premium on a name, when our premiums aren't crazy. Where the hell? That's not, this is, where did that, here it is. All right, 43K premium, taken. So decent size. The size is also great in the open interest, meaning this is a newly placed trade or an opening trade. So that sticks out a lot to me. These 21s, do they stick out as well? Yes, because one, they're not as far out of the money, but they're all ask side. They all look to be, these two for sure are together. This one, I don't think we can fully say that they are together, but potentially together. They're taken within a minute, so it could be scaling into position. We have decent size here, right? These two 59s they're a broken down bigger trade. So those two are together. These two potentially could be scale ins of this trade here, but they're taken at the ask. Shows me some urgency. They're taken with some pretty big size. The size is greater than the open interest, so this is an opening trade. They expire in 5 days. I just wish these were those 25 calls, 24 calls, something further out of the money would make these more important to me. So that's how I kind of break down flow. I just joined. Can you show me which VP you use, please? Yeah. So VP, I just use volume by price. If you search it in here, volume by price. Click on that sucker, and then I have 50 columns set on manual. I don't have the POC on. It's just another line that sometimes confuses me. You can set it on, whatever. That's what I use here on TrendSpider. On TradingView would be the VP VR. But other than that, if there's any other questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to answer those. But I'll plan on doing these on Sundays. If you have questions, want to look over stuff, whatever it may be, I'll just take some time. We can do stuff like that. I've been seeing a lot of bullshit posted recently. Twitter's turned more into a scheming game, which pisses me off. I'm a big fan of Twitter in general, and YouTube also hasn't been focused on education, more to get you to a overpriced Discord that doesn't teach you shit. What time you start? Do you mean start trading, or what time did I start today? Today I started at 10 Central, 11 Eastern. Just hitting the morning action here. Got some stuff to do this afternoon. But yeah, no problem at all. But yeah, I'll be back for sure. And then on Twitter, I post a lot of like what I'm looking for. When do I start trading for the day? Yeah, for sure. So I always sit out those first 15. Why? One, because I use the high and the low, the first 15 as my call and put trigger. So I sit out those first 15. Inevitably, most of the time, my first trade isn't taken until about 30 minutes into the trading day. But it could be faster, could be slower than that. It just depends based off of, do I have a retest yet? All that good stuff. Here's a big if for you. So if we have FOMC, actually, that's the thing I should probably look up. U.S. economic calendar. So if I have a day such as FOMC or something big, major that is happening within the middle of the day, that is one where usually I'll sit out that trading day. Or if I have FOMC minutes on that Wednesday, I know that Tuesday price action usually tends to be choppier. So that's one where I'm going to either take less size or take less trades, or sometimes not even trade at all if I don't see any breaks, right? Any break in price action, all that good stuff. So in this case, do we have anything major going on in the day? We have a Chicago Fed. It's not Powell. Okay, we have stuff before. I'm not worried as much before, but I know there could be a gap down, could be a gap up. Jobless claims, a little bit bigger most of the time. So this could be a gap day. Nothing crazy here. Let's see, factory, ADP, trade balance could be big. Job openings can. Jobless claims again, employment before, potential gap downs. Wait, I want to see where my FOMC is. Okay, well, it's not updated yet. So yeah, that's why I kind of take in note, and it determines when I trade sometimes. But yeah, nothing too crazy. I don't know why I clicked on Twitter. But yeah, appreciate you guys stepping in. If you have any questions, feel free, DM me on Twitter, whatever it may be. Send a comment on here, any video. I'll respond back to it. And other than that, look forward again. I'm talking tonight again, going over SQ on Unusual Whales. A Twitter space at 7 Eastern if you want to stop in. No big deal. I covered that and showed some video here on this SQ, just so you guys have a visualization aspect. But that's my top play for tomorrow, and we'll watch it going the rest of the week. And then in terms of this video will be posted, won't take it down. Very long video for sure, but it'll be posted. So if you ever want to, whatever it may be, look back, all that good stuff. And then if you have any questions about anything, and you want to comment on something or want me to make a video, either comment on a video here, send me a message on Twitter, send a tweet out, whatever it may be, and I'll make a video on that question. Make sure we get that covered. Because if you have that question or you're struggling with something, I guarantee there's someone else out there struggling with it. And I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. If it's something that I actively trade with or use on a day-to-day occasion, it is something that I will for sure make a video. Now, if it's something that I don't use as much and I don't feel like my information is providing any value, or information that hasn't already been created, it doesn't provide you guys with something more that can be used, I'll just send over a link or tag someone's video that I feel gives way better information than I could, and they actually use it on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, thank you guys again. And if you have any questions, leave them wherever. I'll find them.